The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you know where you belong. You don't you snicker and look off camera at me, god damn it. People are like, what's he talking about? I had to move the boxes and put Alexis put her where I need her to be. Hello. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
We really need to get our hand signals synchronized.
Oh, there was a lot of gunplay in that intro.
It's better when it's jazz every time. It really is. Hey, everybody. This is Damn You Hollywood. I'm Robert. You heard Mark intro me, and he referenced Alexis, who is back with us. How you doing, Alexis?
Got my knockoff pseudo homemade ecto cooler. I swear to God, this actually does taste good, folks. I just really screwed up the food coloring. Note to self, food coloring gel is a lot stronger than regular food coloring. You know for the future.
Good to know.
It honestly looks like you used your proton pack to capture Slimer and then like squeezed him and put him in a cup and are now drinking him.
If Slimer had an STD, maybe.
Who says he doesn't? Arr. Speaking of ghosts that have STDs, Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Hang on.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I need you to dial back the weird sexuality about 5% today, Mark.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about a bunch.
This close to saying yes, Daddy. But I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
just 5%.
Yes, sir.
Tonight we are talking about Nostalgia Bait because it sucks.
Nostalgia Bait 2, Electric Boogaloo.
This is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And, oh boy, I am going to have to be, hang on.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be the Grinch again. And I'd gone a lot of podcasts without doing it. You know, it's been a while since I've actually had to sit here and
for you.
So,
side note to Mr. Zachary Strobel: no alcohol in this. So
that's really what it's missing.
Probably.
All right, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire is a 2024 American supernatural comedy film. Directed by Gil Kenan from a screenplay. He might as well be. He co-wrote with Jason Reitman. I can't read tonight. It is the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife, and the fifth film in the Ghostbusters franchise. It stars Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, Mckenna Grace, Celeste O'Connor, and Logan Kim reprising their roles from the Afterlife, alongside a dead-eyed Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, and William Atherton reprising their characters from the earlier films. Kumail Nanjiani, Patton Oswalt, Alyn Lind, and James Acaster also joined the cast. Set 2 years after the events of Afterlife, the veteran Ghostbusters must join forces with their new recruits to save the world in New York City from a death-chilling god who seeks to build a spectral army. And at its world premiere at the AMC 13 Theater at Lincoln Square in New York City, March 14th, 2024, and was released in the U.S. on March 22nd by Sony. That can't make a Spider-Man picture to save their life, but is doing pretty good with Ghostbusters. It received mixed reviews and has grossed over $64 million worldwide. More on that later. All right. I was telling the boys in the band here, each and every one of them is a bad mother in their own right. that normally we go into like a pre-plot, like preamble discussion about whatever it is we're talking about tonight, but we're going to skip that. And Robert's going to give us a 50-word or less plot synopsis so that we can get right into this film, because there's a fair amount that I want to talk about right off the bat before we actually get into the craft review. So take it away, Robert.
So we're in New York again for some reason.
Okay.
Ghostbusters 6 will be Ghostbusters International. Hopefully.
Ghostbusters 7 will be Ghostbusters in space.
Hang on. I'll get to why I brought that up in a minute or two when we get to the craft.
Sounds great.
And things are going meh. The Ghostbusters are out, they're doing their thing, but they still can't fix their equipment to save their lives, so they're in the broken down old hearse. And they capture a ghost, but they cause a bunch of damage in the process, like you do. So they get hauled before the mayor, who is William Peck, the former EPA agent from the original Ghostbusters, because jingling keys.
Hey, credit to that actor who still can flawlessly play a grade A asshole.
I have nothing but respect for William Atherton as an actor. Nothing but. And he proceeds to give them grief because he hates the Ghostbusters for understandable reasons at this point. And he says you can't have the minor, the child that is under the age of 18, hanging off the side of your moving vehicle, firing a proton accelerator in the middle of New York City.
It's not an unfair, criticism of them.
And he's supposed to be the bad guy.
Right. Like, look, I'm all for not having, ghosts run around the city, but I'm just saying maybe giving the minor a small nuclear device was poor parenting. And they're like, no, give the child a gun.
In all fairness, the child is smarter than the rest of them combined.
All evidence to
more on that
contrary.
later. Yeah.
You can't buy experience, folks. So our teenage girl becomes a whiny teenage girl for the duration of this film. And Finn Wolfhard has a subplot where he becomes a frat bro with Slimer for some reason.
That's how you took that? Because that's sure as hell not how I took it.
I'll explain it more later, but yes. As they're trying to figure out, we're trying to do the ghost busting thing, and Ernie Hudson, who is doing great, especially considering he looks 80. Sorry, he is 80 and does not look it. Bless that man.
Not a day over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying all of the anti-aging stuff was taken out of Bill Murray and given to him.
Yep. Pretty much.
I'm convinced Bill Murray died a few years ago, and what we're seeing is his animated corpse. Him, Javier Bardem, and a few other people. I feel like.
Why would you think that about Javier Bardem?
Did you see The Little Mermaid? I know you did because you were there when I was screaming about it.
Okay, hang on. So Disney's deep fake of a real actor is not the same thing as having an animated corpse.
Actually, the joke I've heard about Bill Murray, for the record, Bill Murray's the same age as Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Yep.
Samuel L. Jackson is not a day over 30.
The joke I heard is like, yeah, well, this is what happens when SNL, stocks their staff with, piles upon piles of cocaine.
Not wrong.
Speaking of piles of cocaine, keep going, Rob.
So we have inter-family drama because Paul Rudd is not sure of his position in all of this. And the mother is being drug along because she's the mother. And our inciting incident really is a terribly unfunny gentleman showing up with a brass orb and selling it to Dan Aykroyd. Because Dan Aykroyd is now buying weird junk. He's doing Pawn Stars if Pawn Stars was haunted stuff.
Pawn Stars on a pod. I don't like to use the word on a podcast because he's using the kid podcast from the previous movie who's filming everything. Yeah. But they're making a web series out of it.
So, speed through the rest of this, and Alexis and I are going to shut up so we can get talking.
So he sells him a brass ball that contains within it the ancients. Why are you being weird about that?
I didn't say a word. Keep going.
I thought we were going to shut up, Mark.
I didn't say shit.
You reacted.
Teacher yelled at me because I snickered.
You can't sell it, Mark. If you want to be quiet, you can't sell it.
Okay.
So Dan Aykroyd plays with the brass ball for a little. I had to try and break him there just once. It contains within it the ancient spirit of an ice god from way back in the day. And it has the ability to control other ghosts. So other ghosts are running around. It's trying to get free because it wants to freeze the world down to... It's a danger to ghosts, actually, because it is one of the only things capable of making all particles freeze. It can actually hit absolute zero, which would stop all the particles that make ghosts actually manifest. So it's a scary thing. And Ernie Hudson is trying to expand things, and the containment unit that they originally built is full to bursting, and no one's cleaned the septic tank in a dog's age, and it ain't good. It ain't pretty. And the long and the short of this, and there's a ghost from the 19-something or others who starts preying on our little genius, who is, like most lonely girls, somewhat lonely girls, especially without like strong family structure, you can be preyed upon. Hey, don't give me the weird eyes. That's all children that age. So they kind of become friends, but it turns out this other ghost is just trying to use her, and through convoluted means, they separate our genius's spirit from her body.
Yeah, they took the machine from Superman 2.
Pretty much.
And took away her powers.
Then the ghost, her ghost form is possessed, but it still is connected enough to her body that she's able to speak the chant. And you need to have a human voice speaking the chant that will open up the brass ball and release the horrible entity from inside. So he gets released. He puts his horns back on because we needed a subplot point that lasts all of 30 seconds, I guess. I don't know. And then his goal is to now breach the containment zone, release all the ghosts, and with his army of the undead, conquer the world. And he shows up at the firehouse, and this is all going very poorly, but it turns out that unfunny Indian gentleman is the fire master, the ancient nemesis of the ice god. And he has pyrokinesis, so he monkeys with fire. And eventually they're able to defeat him. He goes away. The containment unit is sort of reforged. The mayor shows up and is like, you've blown up the city and you froze a bunch of stuff and you don't know all the structural damage you caused. But because there's a crowd there that's happy about the Ghostbusters, he is swamped by public opinion. And much like Mayor Quimby is happy to blow whichever way the winds of public opinion are blowing. So the Ghostbusters are reinstated. We are getting new stuff. There's a bunch of new characters that you're supposed to care about. And Lobster. There's not a lot here. For a 2-hour movie, There's not a lot here.
So I really want to get into the thing with Phoebe and the ghost pal. We talked about it a little bit before the show tonight. I brought it up briefly on my TikTok live pre-show. And I'm going to start off by saying something having nothing to do with this, but it relates. And that is, there was a fight in our group chat because Robert said the movie is mid. And however way you interpret the word mid, what Robert meant and what I thought he was saying was the movie was average. And to those listening to this podcast in the future, there's nothing wrong with being average. This cinema used to just be loaded with average movies. Robert, do you remember the salad days of the 80s and early 90s where there was nothing but average movies in the theater?
Can I tell you how I think we got here with this? Because I've been thinking about this for a little bit. Because calling something mid has become a giant insult amongst the younger generation. And I tried to figure out why. Like, what is it about this that... I mean, look, insults come and go. But figuring out why certain things are meant certain ways is kind of interesting. And for some reason, the contemporary pop culture landscape has arrived at the conclusion that it's better to be terrible than to be average.
Terrible's at least rememberable.
Yeah, they'd rather something be terrible that's somewhat memorable or bad ironically than just earnestly average. And I can't express how gross that is.
So getting back to this movie, go ahead, finish your point.
Well, it's what leads to a lot of virulent discourse. Yeah. If you say something's, well, hang on. Well, look, this is what leads to it. If I say something's fine, or that's your thing, for the longest time, you said, yeah, it's fine. And people would get up in arms at you.
Yes, and it led to my hair. I lost hair. I aged. I'm only 30, and look at me now. This is fighting with people, constantly saying that fine is an insult, and I'm like, no, fine is fine. That's what the word means.
Or how anytime I happen to rate a professional wrestling event as a 6 out of 10, which is average on the scale I have to use,
which is so funny.
And everyone and their dog comes out of the woodwork.
Professional reviewers and friends of the show, best friends of the show, really, Whitney Seibold and William Bibiani, they're on critically acclaimed, their movie review podcast. Their scale is everything is a C. It's either a C, a C plus, or a C minus, because most movies are average or above average or below average. Very few are astronomically amazing, and very few are so bad they should be studied. So everything is a C, and they have to explain it every time, and occasionally they have to explain why people hate them for this.
And so you've got that. You now have this, again, this bizarre belief that, doing your best and falling within the average median is somehow the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Because and then because everyone needs their opinions validated by third parties, when you say something's average and it's something that they really like, it offends them. And this is not like me subtweeting at people in our group chat. Like I don't mind. This is something I've observed.
No, but you're getting close to Khrushchev level rant here. I'm waiting for the shoe to come up.
And you derailed my train of thought. Here it is. Because you, as an individual, cannot like something that is just average. If I like it, it can't be average because average is the worst. It has to be very good to great. So now everything's very good to great if you like it. And this is where we've arrived at somehow. And it's terrible. This is a terrible place to be.
It does make it hard to have an honest and objective conversation about the quality of anything. Relating this back to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, a lot of what's come out of the movie is the summation of the reviews of this is this feels like an extended version of an episode of the cartoon.
That's a kind way to phrase it, and I don't think it's inaccurate.
And we'll get into that in a second, which means that the only like talking point beyond objective craft review about this movie that has come up is, and I referred to this before the show as this is the She-Hulk twerk argument yet again, which was something innocuous, something stupid that one side of the culture war took one way and was screaming about, and then the other side of the culture war took the other way and started screaming about, and there's us in the middle going, you're both idiots and yelling about nothing.
Can I phrase that slightly differently for this one instead of the She-Hulk reference?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So Sony accidentally got an email from Kathleen Kennedy. And you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Because we definitely got our requisite lame and gay chick.
But I haven't watched the Midnight's Edge video of it, but the thumbnail is Sony put a chick in it and made it gay. So what are we talking about? Robert alluded to it in the plot synopsis, and I'll throw it to you, Alexis, first to comment on it. But basically, it breaks down like this. When they threw Phoebe, that's the name of the character?
Sure.
Okay. It's Phoebe and Melody.
Thank you. When they threw Phoebe off the Ghostbusters because she is a child and you should not give a child, a nuclear gun. She's trying to figure out where she fits in the world. She is, she's already this character. One of her major identity traits is that she struggles with fitting in. She's always trying to find her place in the world. And she finally finds it at the end of Afterlife. I am a Spengler. I am a Ghostbuster. I have found my path forward, only to have it at the beginning of this movie taken away from her. So far, so good. These are good movie beats. These are good movie bits of movie structure. And so what does she do with herself now that she is lost and adrift from her family? And she goes to play chess in the park, and the ghost comes to her, and there's a very cute thing of like, normally, when I sneak up on people or they see me, they run away fearful. She's like, no, I see ghosts. I see this shit all the time. It doesn't bother me. So they form a friendship. And this ghost becomes her confidant over the course of the movie, which leads to a scene where, and this is why this has been left up to interpretation and people are taking it and running with it due to their identity politics. And it goes like this. I alluded to Superman 2. For those that don't remember that movie, Superman goes into a machine, takes away his power so that he can be human, so that he can be in a loving romantic relationship with Lois Lane. And then he gets the shit beat out of him by truckers. And Zod's around.
Singular one.
Right.
He gets his revenge.
Yes, he does. And so the same thing here. She goes into a machine that will temporarily separate her soul. So essentially, she'll be a ghost for a short period of time, so that they can experience being ghosts together and have that closeness. But huzzah! She was working. It was me, Austin. It was me the whole time. And the ghost is actually working for whatever the name of the evil ghost thing is in this.
Garaka.
Thank you, Garaka. And so she is betrayed, and that takes us into Act 3, which, in as far as you created a relationship that was ultimately set up to be a manipulation so that the character would be at their lowest before going into the third act of the movie, this is all good movie structure. This all flows. Welcome to Mark Radulich's lecture on screenwriting. This is what you're supposed to do. Bring your lead hero character to their lowest, so that they can then pick themselves up and go into the third act ready to right the wrong that they were a part of. This is all fine. But because it's two girls, because it's two young girls, and because there was like the smallest smidgen of a romantic beat between them, one side of the culture war went, why are you putting gay shit in my Ghostbusters movie? Get it out of there. The other people are going, that wasn't gay enough. Why are you queer baiting? This happens to us all the time, as if we're not people. And then there's my favorite group of people right in the middle going, why did you think this was gay? This is a girl who was trying to have a friendship here, trying to find some understanding, and the girl betrayed her. Wait, where do you see gay here? So, Alexis,
I can tell you where they see gay for the rest of it.
That's essentially the source of the controversy. Is you have three groups of people seeing something completely different with the same fucking sequence of events. So what's your response to all of that, other than damn it, get your gay politics out of my Ghostbusters movie? I like proton packs.
Well, I actually kind of thought to myself watching it, I was like, is this supposed to be kind of a romantic subplot? Because I did think to myself, if Phoebe was a boy, or if Melody was a boy, there'd be no question we'd be seeing a romantic subplot between the two. Right. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that the director was leaving it more open-ended. I like the idea that maybe there was something, maybe there wasn't. It's what you see. And for the record, as someone who, shock of horrors, I was pretty awkward growing up, and I had trouble finding friends too. I can understand, Phoebe's desire to just form a bond with anyone, even a ghost. So nice I can understand that.
It's nice to be seen and liked.
Yeah, exactly. And Lord knows Melody is feeling that too, because she is a ghost. And she says like, really, you're not going to run away? She's like, wow, someone who's actually willing to sit and talk with me. She's probably not had that. And they don't mention when she died, but I'm assuming it's been a while.
The time frame you're looking for is called an ill minute. An ill minute. Wu-Tang.
So again, I feel like the directors purposely kept it open-ended. If you think that they were gay, then go ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think they were just friends, again, nothing wrong with that. It's left very open to whatever you want to think. Art in film is subjective. That's the point.
Yes. This is a progressive LGBTQI ally house. And I mean that in the most sincere way. I know I'm not doing a bit. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being my usual passive-aggressive self. We are, in fact, allies of the LGBTQI community, despite, making off-color jokes. But I make off-color jokes about anything. I came from the time of Mel Brooks, where nothing was off the table. And
we don't hate. We're just stupid.
Yes. So So that being
that's what I said last time we screwed up someone's pronouns.
So I say that as a primer for the reaction that my son and I had, because we're watching these two characters bond over the course of the film, and they're bonding so that they can then break the friendship up, betray her, and then mend it at the end of the movie, so that this particular character has a bit of an arc to her. Which is kind of weird. It's just in terms of movie structure that they gave like a sub B-level character her own arc, her own redemption arc. But nonetheless, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mistake.
Yeah, no, agreed. But it's there. I needed to call it out. But my son and I had the exact same reaction of, oh no, please don't make this a gay romance. Like, we're okay with it in the beginning, and as they're getting closer, and like you can be close to another human being without it being romantic. I swear you can. And then it was like, I'm gonna be on the same astral plane as you.
I'm going to remove connection. I'm going to pull my spirit out of my body
so that I can feel you.
Purpose of some kind of physical interaction, and you wonder why people read that as gay,
right? And so that's where me and my son are going. And I swear to God, he elbowed me, like my beautiful 10-year-old genius son looks at me and goes, Dad, please don't let her get kinky with the ghost. Like, I'm gonna stop or like run into the fucking movie. Dad, don't let her get kinky with the ghost. Please don't let her get kinky with the ghost. The look of horror of this beautiful, accepting, progressive
genuine
little boy.
Horror.
Like, and I can't speak for Jonas, but I know my reading on that was basically, please don't let this happen. I can't go through another She-Hulk incident. I can't go through another vicious culture war fight between two asshole sides of the same coin, fighting over, get your gay out of my Ghostbusters movie, make it gayer. Always get your gay out of it, make it gayer. This is what we've broken down to in this country. Those are the two sides. It's not progressive and conservative. It's not Democrat and Republican. It's make it less gay, make it gayer.
I think the important thing,
actually, and I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I can't do it anymore, Alexis. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think the important thing to note is that regardless of whether or not Phoebe and Melody actually had a romantic thing for one another, that doesn't change the story. It has no impact on this whatsoever.
But that's why this is so stupid that both sides took this and ran with it to make it for their talking point agenda, for their political agenda, their cultural agenda, was it doesn't change the movie at all. And I think so when Jonas and I are like, oh my God, please don't do this. It's because if they had gone further than they did, that's all anyone would talk about with this movie. No matter how good or how bad it would become, and I'm reminded of this because I talked about it last night with Ronnie with Afterlife. People saying the movie is awesome or the movie sucks was entirely dependent on their need to see their Ghostbusters again. It had nothing to do with objective criteria. And this is the fight that you and I got into, Alexis, why I was screaming at the beginning of that podcast. And you were like, should I go? And I'm like, no, I'll stop being a psycho. But that was it. If you'll remember, my argument was not that the movie was bad. It was the artificial inflation of how good people thought it was based only on their love of the nostalgia. And here, had they gone any further with this movie would, whether or not it was seen as good or bad, would have been entirely based on someone's personal opinion of homosexuality, and that would have driven me crazy. And I can't do that. I can't do that culture fight anymore. As for my own personal opinion of it, and how it worked in the movie, I honestly think it was handled deftly. I think I'm going to say this in kind of a weird way, but kids make dumb decisions all the time. They make dumb decisions with their heart. Fucking adults make dumb decisions with their heart. You can be led to believe you're in love with somebody when you're really not. You're infatuated, or you're just fucking lonely, and you're glomming onto something that feels better than shitty, and maybe you take it too far. And for me, that's what was happening there, because the ghost clearly wasn't into her. The ghost was manipulating her to do the deed for the master. And so I think the writers of the movie knew exactly how far to take it, where to stop it, and then change gears just so jarringly enough that you're supposed to forget that ever happened and move into the third act clean. And I think that was largely accomplished. But I'll give you the final word to this, and we can move on, Robert.
I Look, I can't.
Well said.
There's the last word, folks.
I'm kind of with you on the. I'm done with this stupid fight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a segment of the population these days that cannot understand human relationships as anything other than sexual. And tell me I'm wrong.
No, again,
I'm laughing because of the comments you've made about me, and you know that's not really how I am. A lot of it is shit.
I know,
but it's just like
that's not you.
No, but it's like there's too many people in this world who see the world as entirely too sexual. Robert looks directly at me.
But no, I brought this up before the show started. It's like, are these the same people complaining that they think Cap and Bucky were gay? Because it's like same argument.
Same people who are convinced that because...
But it was the same argument with...
Good.
I don't know if I froze or not.
Robert, are you getting any of this? Because all I'm getting is a frozen screen.
No, his internet seems to be having an issue.
Am I back?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Am I back?
Sort of.
Am I back? Okay. It was the same issue with Cap and Bucky, where half of the people are going, they're not gay enough, and the other half are going, get your gay shit out of my Marvel movie, and it drove both of us up the wall then, and it's only gotten worse. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, again, it's only gotten worse. There's just a segment of people who can't understand human interaction if it doesn't have a sexual connotation to it. And it's an incredibly narrow, sadly limiting worldview. I mean, it's what leads to people yelling on Twitter about, Xavier and Magneto. And clearly these two were gay because they're men and they hugged at one point. This must be gay.
It is true, unfortunately, that...
Boys? Hang on. Didn't we talk about this in The Boys season 3? What a damaging and horrible out loud.
I didn't get a word of that.
I'm giving it a second.
No.
Well, go ahead and make your point, Bob.
Horrible thing to do to men. All right, am I back now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I said, what a horrible thing. This is going to be fun to do in the audio later. You hear me? Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you. You keep getting completely off sync with your video, but we can hear you.
There was a podcast Robert and I did, and it may have been with Jesse and the Boys season, reduce the kinds of relationships we can have to maybe 2, and how limiting that was.
Yeah, it's a sadly limiting worldview. It leads to long discussions about just how much sexual chemistry there is between Gatsby and Tobey Maguire for long periods of time. This is the kind of thing we're dealing with, and it's just a terrible way to observe life.
It is unfortunate that we have to point out that homosexuality is still very marginalized and doesn't get enough of inclusivity in films and television. But that doesn't change the fact that sometimes, you know what, Sam and Frodo are just friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's because for some reason a bunch of people can't conceive of a close relationship that doesn't lead to sex. And
all right, speaking of close relationships that don't lead to sex, Alexis, what did you think of the movie?
That was one hell of a jump. Okay.
Surprised you didn't throw it to me with that segue.
King of transitions.
Okay, so for the most part, I did greatly enjoy this movie. It's not perfect. There are a couple of flaws. There's a couple of moments where you scratch your head going, wait, how does that work? I think my biggest gripe was I wish we had gotten more with the villain, Garaka. He's barely on screen. We don't really get to see how much of an imposing force he is. I was hoping, we saw how much he was controlling some of the ghosts in the new research center. I was kind of hoping to see more of a threat with him controlling other ghosts. I mean, how cool would it be that on his way to the firehouse, he had already taken control of a handful of the ghosts that were still out and was using them to do his bidding, besides the possessor who was jumping around like crazy,
in kind of that same vein, like they make a big deal about how his horns got ripped off and this reduced his power. And then like he comes back and 10 seconds later, he's got him back. Like we can do something with this if you're going to try and make it a plot point.
Yeah. This movie could, what this movie could have benefited from? A Ghostbusters montage.
Yeah.
The art of the montage is lost on modern Hollywood though.
True, but you can't blame me for loving the montages in the first two Ghostbusters movies. Those were awesome.
No, like, dude, the montage after the containment unit breaches the first time is great.
Yeah, I love the montage with the second one with the woman's fur coat that comes alive and ending with Cheech Marin seeing the Titanic arrive.
Oh, it's so good. Do you remember when we talked about Megan a year or so ago when we were talking about like light horror or horror for children? Mm-hmm. How great the montage from the first movie is after the containment unit breaks in terms of light horror images. The cab driver that turns and mugs at the camera,
Slimer coming out of the hot dog.
Yeah, with the hot dogs in his mouth and everything. There's so many good, just like flashes of stuff, and it's grotesque. And something I was talking about with Ronnie last night. There's stuff in the first Ghostbusters movie that was clearly meant for adults, but if kids saw it, it's not the worst thing ever. They'll get over it. Including the ghost blowjob, there was less of that in the second one, and none of it in Afterlife or this one, which is frustrating because it's one of those things where progressively over time there's less and less ghost busting in these movies, which is a big part of my criticism of Frozen Empire.
It's up there with me too.
I will give you that. Admittedly, I would have liked to have seen more of that. It's a minor thing, but I freaking love how they did Slimer. I just love the idea that he's been hanging in the attic of the firehouse for all the piles of candy wrappers. He's been just like sitting there. It's like just bored out of his mind.
I was waiting for Slimer to mug to the camera and going, "Oh, cheeseburgers and loneliness are a dangerous mix."
So I was happy with what they did. Though I love that he ate the possessor at the end. I actually cheered at that. I thought that was great. So I thought all the actors did really good. Paul Rudd is so much fun in this. Finn Wolfhard and McKenna Grace are really good. Tell me I'm not the only one who thinks Patton Oswalt just showed up at Sony's door and basically said, "Give me a role in this. I'll do anything." I have
a slightly different.
I'm pretty sure he showed up at my door and said the same thing, and I directed him to the Sony lot over in California.
I have a slightly different take. I feel like he was absolutely cast in the role that they wrote, but he got there and they were, and they're shooting scenes and they're whatever, and they're like, "Hey, didn't you used to do Punch Up in Hollywood, Patton?" "Yes, I did an entire bit on this. Everyone knows that's listened to my records. I used to do Punch Up." They're like, "How about this? Take these pages back, punch this up a bit, and come back," because that entire sequence of Patton Oswalt felt like a Patton Oswalt bit. It feels like I think it's in Parks and Recs, the very famous scene in Parks and Recs where he does the what is it where you take over the lectern in Congress and hold everything up. It's got a
filibuster.
Yeah, where he filibusters at the meeting and he goes into like his fan fiction of Star Wars and like, everyone's reacting to it like that's preposterous, like, and it goes completely off the rails. Like, he's a really talented, regardless of what you may think of him personally. Patton Oswalt was a very talented writer, and given a certain set of parameters, he's going to write something very, very funny in a very specific niche. That entire sequence felt very just exclusively Patton Oswalt, to where that's just his bit, and Dan Aykroyd's there, and the actress who plays Phoebe, they're just hanging around. They're just like letting Patton be Patton.
For the record, what he says, he did a good job. And I've mentioned this so many times before about how I really like a film that can give us a new way of delivering exposition and backstory. I like what this film did with the hieroglyphics or the stone car. I don't know if you feel like a relief.
Kind of felt like the beginning of Hercules, right?
I was actually thinking about the dream sequence from Prince of Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah, that's closer.
Either way, I liked it. I like it when a film can give us something like that. Helps, keeps a little more engaged.
Let me get into a couple of my problems with this movie. They give Finn Wolfhard nothing to do. I don't know why they brought him back, other than he was in the
could
family.
have easily not been here. Easily.
Yeah, pretty much.
And speaking of people that shouldn't have been in this movie, Bill Murray, Annie Potts, just why? Like Dan Aykroyd actually.
Mark.
I know why, but why?
Oh, come on. Annie Potts gets
Don't
the best
take my bit. That's my bit.
So Annie Potts gets the best line. It was the 80s. None of us were concerned about staying alive.
I don't give a shit. Give it to Tom Bombadil. She's there because she was in the first movie, and people think her character is funny, and they couldn't get Rick Moranis. That's it. That's her whole fucking purpose in being in these things, and it's annoying. Bill Murray looks like he'd rather be anywhere else, including dead, than in this movie. Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd look like they want to be there and are having fun. And Dan Aykroyd legitimately enjoys like paranormal stuff. So he probably legitimately does want to be there and isn't just doing it for the paycheck or because, Sony has his grandkids held hostage like they do Bill Murray.
Ernie Hudson's admitted he loves the Ghostbusters franchise because they've pretty much kept his career alive. He talked about having Dan Aykroyd, hard it was for him to find work.
So having Dan Aykroyd there as like an advisor, as the lore keeper, as the Gandalf of the group, and please don't stop giving him a fucking proton pack. And having Ernie Hudson there as like the financial backer, that's great. Limited to those roles, they would have been fine. But it's like we're such slaves to as you put it before, the jingling keys and the nostalgia baiting. We have to put everyone in the goddamn jumpsuit. That end sequence where they're all having a giant fucking circle jerk with this stupid ghost, and everyone and nothing's happening. They're all firing their laser guns at the thing, and none of them are being effectual, which wouldn't bother me except for the fact that they said 10 minutes before that these proton packs don't work against this ghost, and they have to do a MacGyver A-Team sequence with Phoebe as she melts down brass to make her proton pack in any way effectual against the frozen Ghost King guy. And then 10 minutes later, it's like they forgot that part of it. And it's like, if we don't show Bill Murray firing a stupid proton pack, people will burn the theater down. And so they do. And I couldn't have been more fucking bored by that entire sequence. It's awful.
I did like the bit where Dan Aykroyd's trying to explain the idea of using the ghost trap, and Bill Murray was like, we get it. You're smart. You don't have to explain it.
Yes, that was a funny line, but in the service of the movie, a lot of that was extraneous bullshit for nostalgia baiting purposes, and it offends me personally. And like I said, Paul Finn Wolfhard, they didn't write enough for him to do. I felt bad for the kid because he's a great actor. He does really fun stuff in other movies we've seen him in. He's like, great in the It movies and all that. And here it's like he's like relegated to his entire character arc is he can drive the car by the end of it. In the beginning, he couldn't drive the car. It was too dangerous. But at the end, he's a big old teenage boy and can drive the car. Hollywood writing, everybody.
You can't tell me that ChatGPT wouldn't have come up with something better.
Yeah, really. Like I think somebody said it was Madam Web lines. Where there was an argument like by the writing team that brought you like it was like Morbius, this and this, and like this is an argument in favor of artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of this.
Just had the strike and you're just shooting yourselves in the foot all over again.
Yes, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary here.
Keep that, Robert. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow.
So, the stuff I did like, as per usual with me, the stuff with Phoebe and the ghost, devoid of the political pandering or gender pandering, I really liked. She's a good actress. The actress playing opposite her, the two of them had good chemistry, and I like that stuff. I mean, the story of a girl trying to, struggle and find her place in the world and being betrayed by someone who thought she was a friend. I mean, tell me that doesn't resonate with you on some level. That's a story as old as time. And it was great, and it was well acted. Okay. Oh, that you're not from this planet, but the rest of us mortals. The other thing that resonated with me was Paul Rudd trying to figure out where he is in this family. Because again, having dated people who have kids.
I can't imagine why that would resonate with you.
Yeah, like having dated people with kids, it's hard to know what you're allowed to do as another parent with someone else's kid. It's hard to know where you fit into a family when you're sort of like sucked into one. And it's a struggle. And then it's like, well, once you're kind of given the green light as he is, when the mom says it's okay to be the bad guy, be the stepdad, and then he does it, and then like you love these kids and you feel shitty about yourself because sometimes the best parenting makes you feel awful. Facts can confirm.
I gotta ask, did they confirm if he was officially their stepdad? Did he and Carrie Coon get married? I couldn't quite.
I mean, in terms of like strict adoption sense, or is he married to the mom? No, but I mean,
yeah, because at the end, Phoebe calls him dad. So I was trying to figure out, it's like, wait, did they get married off screen?
No, because we can't have a happily married couple in Hollywood anymore.
Right, hold that thought. The mom, and then I like the stuff with the mom. The mom. This is the family business, and this is a job, and she's a mom, but she's not like the religious zealot of Ghostbustery, the way the Paul Rudd tends to be, and the way the real life fandom is. For her, this takes you all the way back to the first movie. It's just a job. She's just trying to get this family to not die. And I like her internal character struggle. Like, the character beats in this movie, of which nobody will see this movie for and not appreciate, are the best stuff in this movie. The actual ghost busting is meh. And the plot of it is, a resurrected ghost wants to take over the world with a ghost army. Where have I heard that before? Oh, every fucking movie. The fact that it's being compared to the Ghostbusters cartoon, which was great when I was 8 years old. And as a almost 50-year-old, I don't know if I would appreciate as much. But
come on, everyone loves Lorenzo Music's voice.
So, unless I was reminded of Arsenio Hall played Winston. Ooh, 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 ooh. But just kind of round out my criticisms of the movie. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't love it. It's squarely average, which is fine. I'm okay seeing an average movie in the theater. It was a nice time out with my son. It was competently made, kinda. But that's all it is. And for those who, of our friends who were just like, but I liked seeing this and I liked seeing that, and there were bits of it were funny and everyone left the theater happy. That matters. But that's all subjective observation, not objective criticism. These words matter. Learn what they mean. Robert?
Yeah. So
I wish you drank. Yeah.
You really don't.
For the visual effect, yes.
I will come up with some visual gag for that next time, okay?
Just a giant cannon that says beer on it in black and white letters.
Oh no, are you kidding me? This man needs a freaking humongous bottle of Heineken.
Somebody gave me, a friend of mine that I go to concerts with has Conor McGregor's whiskey, and she was like, hey, do you want this? I'm gonna send it home with you. So it's in my trunk. I'm just gonna mail you the bottle so that you can like put water in it and mock drinking it on camera.
No, you should just throw that away.
It's even as a non-whiskey drinker, you're telling me the Conor McGregor whiskey is toilet water?
How did I best hear it described? It's mediocre party whiskey.
Ugh. Ouch. That offends me as a whiskey drinker.
Like, if somebody busts that out at a house party, you kind of go, okay, whatever.
Sure. Because at that point, you're just drinking anything and you're not really tasting anything. Hey, Robert, what'd you think of the movie?
Let me just start with, on an objective level, I think you guys are right. This is perfectly average. There's pacing issues. There's subplots that don't need to be there. Again, we don't need the redemption arc of the other ghost. Finn Wolfhard he's the appendix of this thing. Like, could easily have been removed. The rest of it is really paint by numbers. There's a whole bit in the middle that I almost fell asleep during.
Yeah, I was in and out of this movie up until the library scene.
This is not a well-paced movie. It's not very well written. But on an objective level, I can see why people enjoyed it.
Sure.
So let's get to the subjective then, shall we? I was bored.
Yeah.
By this whole thing. I did not enjoy this. And I'll tell you why very simply. If I don't laugh at your comedy, I'm not going to have a good time. And I did not see this in an empty theater. There were I won't say plenty, because again, I go early to theaters. How many other people were there? There were 20, 30 other people in there, I think. So, decent-ish. I don't think there was a crowd laugh.
My theater was full on a Friday night, to the point where I got there late and I didn't buy tickets ahead of time. So Jonas and I sat almost in the front row, and the theater was full. But you're not wrong. I didn't hear a lot of people laughing.
This is a comedy, right?
And in theory.
Admittedly, there weren't a lot of like belly laugh. There's a lot of snickering. There was a lot of okay, that was funny, but there wasn't any big belly laughs.
And I tend to think that the bizarre decision to fixate on awkward humor is to blame for that.
Just as a comparison, go back and watch Ghostbusters 2. I said this last night, and it bears repeating if anyone didn't hear me say it. Peter McNichol in Ghostbusters 2 is a long string of hilarious one-liners, of which there are none in this movie, including, I know, like, maybe the Bill Murray thing that you brought up, but yeah, that's for me a stretch. Like, Peter McNichol's like, why am I drippings with goo? Ooh, but I wooed. He is Vigo. You are nothing but flies to him. Vigo, Vigo, Vigo. You've been a bad monkey.
Everything you're doing is terrible. I want you to know.
I said that last night. Everything you're doing is bad. This is what
the first one, which is just a bunch of rapid fire interplay between.
Whoa! Nice shooting.
Text.
Dude, the first Ghostbusters is maybe the most quotable movie in existence.
I'm pretty sure that we have all quoted the entire movie at one point.
Yeah, no. At this point, we're fighting over which is our favorite color. But to the point, there's nothing like that in this movie. Yeah,
nothing. And you kind of went along with Afterlife being not as funny because it was trying to be anchored more in the emotion of losing Harold Ramis. Yeah, and we don't even have that here. Like, there's no emotional beat to this that's really resonant.
You could argue that it was touching.
I mean, it was kind of like
Ivan at the end.
Well, I was thinking about Afterlife being kind of the Force Awakens, where like we just need to resurrect the corpse of this thing so that we have a live body for the next movie. And then we get to the live body and okay, stop pumping air into this thing. It's alive. We got it.
Yeah, so again, if I don't laugh at your comedy, that's a real problem. If I'm bored out of my mind, it's a real problem. And look, these are subjective things. There are other people who might have had a really good time, and Godspeed, party on, man. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong.
I would tell you, if you bring your 8-year-old child to this movie, that child's probably gonna have the time of their life. That child's probably going to enjoy it. But again, because I said this about Lily when I took her to see Answer the Call when she was 5, most children do not have the critical thinking skills to deconstruct the movies like we're doing. They're going to see a lot of fun stuff and pretty people and react to it appropriately. A lot of these movies we talk about on here at the level that we're talking about them don't stand up under the weight of any kind of scrutiny. And that's the problem here. So before I get into that fight with everyone in our group chat, I'll say, if you're not scrutinizing the movie, sure, you liked it and you thought it was good. But we're here spending an hour scrutinizing it, and it's got loads of problems. Go ahead and finish up, Robert.
Is there anything else? I don't know. Again, okay, here's the last thing. If I'm not laughing at your comedy, if I'm not engaged in the 2 action scenes you deign to grace us with, you're asking me to care an awful lot about the stupid lives and decisions of teenagers.
Right.
This is what, look, you and Pat and other people have sworn up and down to me that Cobra Kai is great.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried. I can't watch it because 70% of any given episode is, boy, teenage drama sure is interesting, right?
I think it's more than 70. And you're right. If you're not into it, that show is a waste on you.
It is. It's an anchor around your neck. And that's what, and when this movie, devoid of laughs, devoid of ghost busting, devoid of, actual emotionally resonant content, is watch these teenagers. And I'm sorry, no.
Yeah. Look, if you're like a parent, if you've watched enough of like the tween, YA Disney stuff, and you found yourself reacting positively to it, you're probably gonna have a good time with this and Afterlife for that matter. But if you're not, this is a lost cause.
And that's where I landed on this. This did not like.
Before we move into, I'm going to ask a very Alexis-y question. Ronnie and I talked about it last night. See, when I do the Alexis question, it's fine. When Alexis does the Alexis question in the middle of another conversation, not so much.
Love you too, Mark.
I don't really want to see any more Ghostbusters movies, but I live in the real world, so we're going to get more. So Alexis, what do they do with the third one? Because this one's not doing as well as they wanted it to. I mean, the entire franchise has passed $1 billion, but it took them 86 movies, 2 cartoons, and a partridge in a pear tree to do it. They want the next one to be in 30 years. Yeah.
Almost 40 actually.
Yeah.
40. Yeah.
So, if we go back to headquarters, we go back to the people who own the IP, we go back to Sony and we go, well, what do we do to really kick this up a notch and make the third one, the best blockbuster it can be? And you're tasked with producing this thing. What do you do, Alexis?
Told you, Ghostbusters International. That's already a comic series. I want to see Ghostbusters outlets set up around the country. I want to see them being like, okay, we can't just stay in New York. We're setting up operations around the world.
Hang on. To your point, that was my other big criticism of this movie.
Oh, why New York?
Well, hang on. Let me bring up the why. Let me bring up the importance of that. New York City is a character in the first 2 Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah, very much so.
The setting matters. Again, the character of the people, it plays. It plays in all of that. What about this movie required the setting of New York other than nostalgia?
Right.
You could have dropped you could have put this in Dallas. Set this in Dallas, Texas. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Not a darn thing.
Just imagine the story arcs you could get setting up a Ghostbusters outlet in freaking LA.
What about Baltimore? You could have a Ghost Omar running around with a shotgun.
Please don't.
God. Click on the bingo card.
I will explain to you how The Wire took place entirely within the imagination of an autistic boy if you want me to, Mark. I can do that.
I will start hitting buttons if you do.
Just warning you.
You'll start hitting buttons.
So Robert and I firmly with hands on our guns going, I'm going to back out of this room. Okay, well, I'm going to back out of this room.
Nice and easy now. Nobody has to get shot.
Right.
Now, Skeeter, they don't want any trouble.
And look, be nice to the people of Baltimore. They just had a bridge collapse. They don't need this.
Keep going while I agonize over a now tied up score in the Thunder game.
Told you.
For what it's worth, Godspeed
Fuck
to the
off.
rescuers for the bridge site. That's got to be terrible.
Indeed, man. That I saw the video on that hit last night, and oh man,
yeah,
that's awful. So, how do you fix this? I don't hate the idea of Look, here's if you want to do Ghostbusters beyond the firehouse, I don't think that's a bad idea. In fact, because a big part of what makes the first Ghostbusters work is that it's just a small business, dealing with franchising might actually be fun.
Did you hear about the Ghostbusters unit in Dallas, Texas that blew up an orphanage? I know, we're working on it. Like, I kind of now I'm into this, as you're saying, and I'm kind of into this idea of what if they ran it as a corporation? Like, Winston's the CEO of this corporation. Dan Aykroyd's there as sort of like an ambassador, and he's like setting up franchises everywhere, and they're having to deal with
quality control.
Do you think about every Ghostbusters movie? There's like small scale destruction that takes place, and then large scale destruction. And what if that's happening on an ongoing basis?
Better idea then. Not a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix series. Every episode's a different city with a different story to tell.
You can kind of do it kaleidoscope style where you don't have to watch them in order either.
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, that's the brilliance of serialization. It can all be. You know what you do? You set them all at the same time, and then the next Ghostbusters movie is, boy, I hope you watched these on Netflix. And here's the fallout of all these things happening at the same time. And a lot of it is Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson desperately pleading with insurance carriers not to raise their rates through the roof.
There you go.
Okay, stay down there, Kevin Feige.
There's your third movie, Ghostbusters Endgame. All right. With that said, let's get now. For those of you who may be tuning into the first time, I'm just going to briefly say this is the end of our craft review, but not the end of the podcast. The next we do 2 more segments. One is a discussion about the finance of the movie, the budget, the movie, the money, as we call it, and then we look at the weekend box office, and then we'll do something another bit after that, which I'll explain shortly. So here it is, my favorite part of the podcast, one that I'm most enthusiastic about, and the one that nobody else cares about, but the exception of Robert. Here come the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
I love the fact that we have an audience now across social media, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. But let me tell you how I've had to learn to talk to the audience, because like every show, we have new people. So let me explain what we've been doing for 20 years. And there's poor Robert, utterly impatient with all of it.
Dude, you do. Because my MMA podcast has grown on occasion, I occasionally do have to stop and go, okay, so y'all know I love Max Holloway, right?
Right.
Like my respect for so-and-so is well documented. We're at a point, though, where things are different.
All right. So on a budget of $100 million reasonable dollars, this thing opened up with 64. No, this is $100 million for their kind of movie like this is reasonable.
No, I wasn't disagreeing with you.
Okay. The box office worldwide is currently sitting at 64.3 million. As of March 26, 2024, Ghostbusters has grossed 47.8 million in the US and Canada, and 16.4 million in the other territories, for a worldwide total of 64.2. In the United States and Canada, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was released alongside Immaculate and Late Night with the Devil, which Alexis will be reviewing without my passive aggressiveness tomorrow, with Jason Teasley, Robert Winfree, and Dorian Price.
I assure you, I will be passive aggressive enough for you. You will be there in spirit.
Okay.
Thank
Mark,
you,
could
baby.
you scroll down, please? You're still just showing the check out what's new from Alexa ad at the top of the screen.
Oh, right. That bothers you for some stupid reason. Got it. Here you go.
Gee, I wonder why. It's not like you bothered to turn yours off.
And it was shut up. And was projected to gross 43.5 million. So sick of you. And all your nonsense, your passive aggressiveness, and your bullying. From over 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made 16 million on its first day, including 4.7 million from Thursday night previews, slightly topping Afterlife's 4.5 million. It went on to debut 45 million, landing between the opening weekends of Ghostbusters, 46 million in 2016, and Afterlife, 44 million in 2021, topping the box office and pushing the Ghostbusters franchise past 1 billion mark. God damn it, it took them 40 million. It took them 40 years, but they did it, those crazy bastards.
I feel like we shouldn't count Answer the Call if it's not been canonized.
Well, I don't want to get into the nerdy fucking stuff that makes me want to shove everyone down, including myself, down a flight of stairs. But it is canonized. They acknowledge that that's the same universe as the actual Ghostbusters, which is weird because you would think, like, it's New York City. It's not that big of a city. Like, the island of Manhattan's not that big. And if there's two competing teams of Ghostbusters, they might run into one another every once in a while.
Let's not give Melissa McCarthy ammunition for saying, please hire me.
That's fair enough. Moving on. The number one movie of the weekend was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. No surprise there. Dune in its second week was knocked to number 2.
Hang on. No. Dune was just second last week and held.
Yeah, right. I read that.
No, it's been here for a while.
Yeah, 4 weeks. I was like, as I'm saying, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Dune was in its second place for 2 weeks in a row in 4 weeks. Kung Fu Panda was knocked from number 1 to number 3. Immaculate debuted at number 4. Arthur the King was knocked from 3 to 5. Late Night with the Devil debuted at 6. Imaginary dropped from 4 to 7. Love Lies Bleeding went from 6 to 8. Cabrini 5 to 9. And Bob Marley One Love, which came out the same weekend as Madam Web, but is still available in theaters, whereas Madam Web has been relegated to streaming because it sucks.
Yes, it does. We reviewed
all right. You Can Call Me Bill debuted at number 15, and Carol Joda topples.
I was thinking about watching that, but then I heard about the brutal rape scene.
Okay.
It's just the story of Bill Clinton, right?
Debuted at number 28, Riddle of Fire 32, Femme 34, The Heart Says 35. Do not expect too much from The End of the World, the story of Robert Winfree. debuts is number 37, Limbo 43, Free Time 44. God, there was a lot this weekend. And that was the weekend that was. Worldwide, finally. Chris Bailey. All right. We finally have some movement in the top 10. We actually have movies to talk about again. Dune Part 2 currently sitting at 575 million worldwide and the number one movie in the world where it belongs.
What movie do you think will, if any, will take its spot?
Mark's on record with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
I've
already said at the end of the year, the number 1 and number 2 are Deadpool and Wolverine and then Dune Part 2. Nothing is cracking those two. I stand by that. I think Free Guy will be somewhere in the top 10. I think Wicked will be somewhere in the top 10 by when all is said and done, because apparently, when your musical doesn't suck, people will go see it and it'll make money.
Oh, I've yet to see evidence of that.
Well, I'm mostly referring to Wonka.
I don't know. I know it's categorized as a musical. I'm not sure I agree with that about Wonka, but
I'm putting in my bet right now. I think top 10 Beetlejuice is going to crack it.
So my son, speaking of, oh my God, please don't make the characters gay. I can't handle it. And he's only 10. Also said, Beetlejuice is going to suck, Dad. And I don't know if I want to live in this world where people are going to be that upset and want to burn the theater down because of it. But and him starting to, turn into Robert Winfree, I don't have a lot of hope for this movie. I'm looking at him going, Jesus, you're too young to be this jaded.
You played our podcast for him, Mark.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
Listen to the soothing sound of Daddy screaming at Robert about Deadpool. You'll be fine.
I think wasn't it our Sonic review that actually was the one that got repeated a lot?
That Detective Pikachu is one they've heard. Because remember, you can hear a lot of these just the player on YouTube. So it didn't matter or not.
Detective Pikachu, where I didn't see the movie because committed. I was committed to that gag. To the very end.
Detective Pikachu, where you and I, Robert, were convinced if we had to give everyone Pokemon, we give Mark a Jigglypuff.
So Jonas actually confessed something to me recently. He's like, I don't listen to your podcast anymore to go to sleep at night. And I said, but for why, son? And he said, because as much as I enjoy listening to you and Robert and everyone talk, and I like to hear what you guys think of movies because I learned the language of film criticism. Something that people my age can't seem to do. He was like, the problem is the sound effects on your show wake me the fuck awake every single time. God help me if anything bombs that you're talking about, because then I hear that goddamn plane crash and I scared. I'm like a cat. It's just like, and I hit the ceiling. Yeah,
he had no problem hitting the buttons last time we did a show, and he was still logged into your account.
Jesus Christ. The point is, it wakes him up out of a dead sleep, so he doesn't want to hear it anymore, which I thought was kind of funny. And a lesson in, maybe getting sound clips that match the volume of your actual podcast, not 10 times louder.
That's true.
Robert, did you see our review of the Last Airbender live action series?
Not yet. I also I half tried with that, and I gave up after an episode and a half.
Well, you missed Jonas realizing that he could activate all the sound effects because he was logged in under Mark's account, and him literally going, "I have the power,
ultimate power." Yeah, he turned into the fucking Jafar from Aladdin.
He turned into He-Man. I have the power.
I have the power. Or Snap. I got the power. I mean, Kung Fu Panda is number 2 in the world at 275 million. Bob Marley, by default, is number 3 with 173.
I was going to say that is not staying there. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just looking and going, okay, how fast is everything 3 and down going to drop?
Yeah, the Beekeeper hanging in there from January.
You know what? Look, Mark's going to have another apoplexy every week. If you'll recall, ladies and gentlemen, when we were talking about 2023, Mark developed a vendetta against Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, because it hung on at number 10 until 6 weeks into 2024.
Yeah, and Wonka had to beat it.
But that was Mark's. But Mark he looked at that. He had to. Every week when we reviewed movies, he'd bring up the worldwide box office and he'd stare at the same things in the same places week after week after week. And eventually, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I turned into Snape from Harry Potter.
That's what we're looking at here, because we've talked about this, man. 2024 is a kind of a wasteland. There's not a lot here.
Yeah, the summer looks bleak. I mean, not that there's not good movies; they'll be good movies, but they're not going to be huge hits. I think the only movie that even got a chance of, it's only 2 movies this year that even have a chance of cracking $1 billion, and I don't think they're going to do it, is Dune and Deadpool and Wolverine.
Neither of them's hitting $1 billion. I don't think.
Yeah, so this will be the first year because outside of COVID, everything, including I think 2021, something hit $1 billion. I'll double check 2021, but definitely 2022, definitely 2023.
When did Avatar come out?
2020. It was December of 2022.
Okay, 2022 then I think was the first year back, because 21 still had a lot of the COVID lag.
Right. That's why I had to double check.
2022 and 2023.
But I know didn't Avatar hit $2 billion, or did it only crack $1 billion? Yeah. But it did it, is the point. And then 2023 we had Barbie and Super Mario that cracked $1 billion.
Just a little bit over, yeah.
Yeah, and then Oppenheimer came close, and then was that downhill after that. In this year, like, not a lot of hope here for movies cracking $1 billion, and for like, why do they care? Well, one, because we're kind of fans of theatrical exhibition being successful, and imagine Robert and I lamenting and documenting year after year after year of watching theatrical exhibition go downhill, like your parent with dementia in their 80s. And now the world is finally caught up to what we've been saying for the past 5 years.
It's a little too close to home there, just for the record.
I'm sorry. But anyway, moving on. The Beekeeper at number 4. Mean Girls currently on PVOD if you're interested at 104. Madam Web. Oof. Speaking of movies that are not going to last long in the top 10, 99 million and already available on streaming services. Argyle at 95 million. Yeah.
That poor movie.
Poor Matthew Vaughn. So Exuma at 72, and then Ghostbusters debuting in the top 10 at number 9 at 64 million. So my question is, with Godzilla versus Kong coming up, and then, April starts to pick up a bit of steam. We've got Monkey Man. We've got Civil War, Abigail.
Hang on. Civil War, I don't have a lot of.
Yeah, I don't think.
I hate to say, though, early releases or early screenings have been getting really positive reviews for Civil War. I was surprised.
I'm sure. Okay, briefly. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's mostly competently made.
I think it'll be good. I just don't think anyone will go see it. It's an A24 movie. It's an A24 movie in a marketplace where people don't go see just movies anymore. They go to see events or something to entertain their family if they have money and time. Civil War, it's weird that it got theatrical exhibition at all.
For the record, if you wanted to throw another movie out there that might be in position to potentially challenge either Deadpool or Dune, if you make me pick a movie outside of those two that I think pretty solidly is going to be top 3, I think your dark horse this year is Despicable Me 4, which I know you hate.
That's up there. Well, no, I'm not a crazy person. I know how successful those movies are. Go ahead, Alexis.
I'm sorry. I was just saying there's not a lot in the way of animated family films coming out this year. So
it's Despicable Me. It's Despicable Me 4, Garfield, and then Moana 2, of which there's press about it, but we haven't seen images. There's no trailer yet because it doesn't come out until like November. And then it was like a late release where I think because they, Disney, and then within Disney, Marvel and Star Wars just said forget it with 2024. We'll come back in 2025 and hopefully we'll have something that hits. And then suddenly and without warning, like Snow White got kicked out of 2024 into 2025.
Well, I'm
suddenly
really
without warning, they're like, and Moana 2 is back. And we're like, what the fuck is this?
I think Disney is still trying to scrounge what little part of that company is still alive after last year.
Inside Out 2 is also coming out, but again, so for those listening maybe for the first time, and I'm dropping names, you don't know who the hell I'm talking about. One of our friends of the show, frequent contributor, he's been on. If you look at my 2021 stuff, he did a lot of the wrestling stuff with me from the Alabama part of Canada. Chris Bailey, he will love you, Chris. He railed
against at some point for something else, but that's good.
It's yours, baby. he has railed against Inside Out being the thing that killed Pixar. It was the cancer that killed Pixar several years later, once it grew, and killed the patient. Despite the fact that, and it's an interesting argument that he makes, and one that I don't completely throw out the window, because while Inside Out made $1 billion, it was one of these things where it was like, we may have kind of hit peak Pixar, because everything that came after that, we saw a company in decline, and then COVID happened and they never recovered. My point being that I don't know if Inside Out 2, 100 years later, captures the same magic as Inside Out 1, and this is the Captain Marvel argument. Captain Marvel made $1 billion because everything at that time that Marvel put out made $1 billion. It just rode coattails. It wasn't that good of a movie, but it happened to be in a marketplace that was supporting that brand to its highest level. So did Inside Out. Inside Out comes out in a time when Pixar can do no wrong, and everything they do makes $1 billion. Pixar hasn't made a successful movie since the year of the fucking flood. And I don't know if anyone cares anymore about Inside Out 2. I mean, am I excited about the movie? Yes, somewhat. I think, examining a teenager's, and Robert throws himself out a window, examining a teenager's emotional state, for comedy and drama, I think is an interesting idea. But again, we are avid movie watchers. We are people who, we watch the shit like it's sports. And if I go to my ham and egger everyday people and go, are you interested in an Inside Out movie? They're gonna look at me like I have two heads. Like, who fucking cares? They Minions 6, sure. They see the Minions on their Facebook page. Inside Out, I don't know about.
Well, dude, I was watching the preview, the trailer for Despicable Me 4 was in front of Ghostbusters for me yesterday when I watched this. It occurred to me, I've been trying to figure out, like, why have the Minions, like what's up with the Minions? Because I know they're not your favorite thing.
Yep.
But I thought about it and realized, I figured it out. I know why they work. Because they haven't figured out how to make Looney Tunes movies in so long.
Oh, that's a lost art form. Alexis will tell you that much.
Hashtag release Coyote versus Acme.
You are not wrong.
Oh my God, you psycho.
No. Look, it came up naturally. Leave her alone.
Sorry. Dog with a bone with her. Dog with a bone, and that's why I said it. Not because of the content of the movie.
But because the Minions are just kind of a throwback to what, older school Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Because it's just well-executed physical comedy.
It's one of those rare gems now that you got universal appeal, and universal appeal is how you make money when done correctly. So yeah, Godzilla versus this next group of movies. The whole reason why we're talking about this, people I've kind of lost the plot here. Why do they get into all of this? Because we're trying to figure out in this next little bit, and then I'm going to move on to the next segment. Does Ghostbusters become profitable? Has to make more than $200 million to be profitable. That's the math that we use. I'm not going to explain it now. If you've never heard us talk about it before, just go with it. It needs to make more than $200 million. It's at 60. And these things make, generally speaking, less and less money weekend after weekend until they're finally out of theaters. So is it going to scrape together enough to get past 200 million with Godzilla versus Kong next week?
Godzilla X Kong, Mark.
Oh, who gives a fuck? Monkey Man, Civil War, Abigail, and Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare over the next 4 weeks. How likely do you think it's going to scrape past 200 million? And I think it's just going to barely get there. I'm thinking 250, 275 at best. What do you think, Robert?
I'm a little bit more bullish than you. I think it gets there, but I think 250 might even be something of a stretch.
What do you think, Alexis?
I've never been good about predicting the numbers, but admittedly, I think it's got a chance. Let's face it, as good as Dune Part 2 is, it's not a family film. Mm-hmm. There's very little right now in the theaters that families can go see other than Kung Fu Panda, which we've admitted they aimed at a much younger audience for. Right. I say Ghostbusters is going to hold on to that for a little bit because it's the only movie out for a while that can attract everyone in the family.
Well, let's put an asterisk on that. And I don't mean to be the political ass here, but we spent 20 minutes talking about how this may be too gay for some people. So The families that aren't offended by anything that's even remotely gay, sure, but those people are in large numbers and they see movies too. And I think if anything is going to make this bearish and why I'm not sold on this making over 300 million, it's that the word is out that this, that this film is too queer for your kid. It's not. People are psychos, but you can't fucking fight the internet anymore.
But look, you can't unring the bell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, I think it probably gets there barely, but it's.
I think we're getting another movie. Now, for the record, I really hope that if we get another movie, it's the last one. I think this is the last one. I think this is the next to the last one.
I'm okay with a third movie if we don't do any more of these. Let's do a series. If you have to keep milking this cow, and they do a cartoon. Ronnie and I brought this up last night. This needs another cartoon. But Ronnie said something, and I said this was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard you say in the 20 years I've known you. Like legitimately, and that really was the truth. Ronnie said this, and I was like, Ronnie, that's the smartest thing you've ever said. Ghostbusters needs an adult animated cartoon, like a cartoon, an animated show for adults. Because what we're realizing is that the old school method, the old school philosophy of where is the money? The money is in children, because children have to be brought by their parents. And so for every family that goes to see, your multiplier goes, 3 to 4 or more or higher if you've got a bigger family. Except they don't go to the movies anymore. The people with disposable income, the people who will buy toys, and this is a big component of this. Children don't buy toys anymore. Not past the age of fucking 3, I'll tell you that much. Facts can confirm. They're playing video games, and they're playing video games like at the age of 4 and up. So who are buying toys?
All on touchscreens too, by the way.
Yeah. So who needs toys? We all got one of these.
Well, who's buying toys? People who look like me and Robert. Yep, us. Us balding, middle-aged, angry white guys. We're buying the toys that make the noise, and we're watching the cartoons because I'll tell you what, my kids are watching fucking TikTok and YouTube Shorts and anything that doesn't take an attention span. They're not watching a lot of long-form traditional television. So if you're going to keep the Ghostbusters franchise alive, make a cartoon, but make it for adults.
I think that's true. That's probably a very good idea. I miss Mark. You and I are old enough. Alexis too. Like we remember the days when when a movie would come out, and if it was a decent hit, maybe not like big hit of the year, but a good, it was good. One of the things you could do with that was get a cartoon out of it.
Well, that's what happened. Ghostbusters was a hit, and then they had the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, look, there was that. There was a Back to the Future cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then this is long before Rick and Morty. There was a Back to the Future cartoon.
I said last night there was a Mr. T cartoon.
There was the Mask cartoon.
The Mask had a cartoon. That terrible Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie had a cartoon.
Oh, so much. God, yeah.
That movie sucks. The cartoon's actually pretty good. There was a Men in Black cartoon.
A RoboCop cartoon.
Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines, Gem and the Holograms.
This used to be a big part of how this stuff, the machinery turned over.
Right. It's how you created new fans. It's how it stayed in the cultural zeitgeist. It's how it continued to make money when you didn't have a feature in the theater. And that is dead as Kelsey's nuts. It's gone.
But the question becomes should it be?
But again,
hang on.
Target at the right market, sure.
You've got the infinite shelf of streaming, right? You got several of these that are willing to throw money on this stuff. There's been several movies over the last 10 years. You have to go back that far. Let's go back 8. Okay. How many movies came out in the last 8 years that were standalones that were good? Again, maybe not, hit of the year, but good. And it resulted, and you can't help but think you could do something with this in a serialized format.
The Beekeeper, the animated series, that would have been great.
You joke, but you could.
No, I wasn't joking. That's the thing.
No, Beekeeper, Tenet would be awesome as a series.
Yes, it would.
I'm not even joking. Like,
which confused the fuck out of people, but it would be awesome.
You'd have to, streamline a bit of it. But
for the record, X-Men 97 has proven that there is a window for plastic animation to come back.
Speaking of keep your gay shit out of my cartoon. All right. So you have more online controversies. All right. The next segment started out as years and years ago as I would read some of the most ridiculous polls from Rotten Tomatoes to aggravate the shit out of Robert, and it just became a bit. And so here it is, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I've never really noticed until your brother pointed it out, the look on Shawn Michaels' face as Triple H is doing that. And it really is me and you. Speaking of me and you, the critics hated it and the fans loved it. Chris Bailey rides again.
You want to know the saddest thing about this?
What's the saddest thing about this, Robert?
The official Ghostbusters Twitter posting a picture of this and telling their fans, go rate this 5 stars. Like, could you engagement farm harder?
Oh, look, they're adopting the DC method.
Yes.
By the way, the next time you mention Coyote versus Ugly, I'm going to yell back at you, release the Snyder Cut.
I said Coyote versus Acme, not Ugly.
Did I say Coyote versus Ugly?
Yes, you did.
Well, I'm tired.
Okay.
All right,
I'm
top critics.
That one.
All right, so 44 drops to 33 if you look at just the top critics. The audience score is 84%. It rises 1% when you go to all audiences.
All that Twitter engagement.
This is why the Red Chinese will win. Anyway, the AI writes, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire offers a certain amount of nostalgia-fueled fun for fans. Gag me with a fucking spoon of the original.
Even ChatGPT has figured out what's up here.
But a crowded cast and surprisingly serious tone prevent the sequel from truly sparking. Yes, God forbid we have emotional resonance in our comedy fucking ghost movie.
Well, hang on. I mean, look, we said the problem was that there isn't any. I understand the arc they're trying to go with. I'm not even saying it's a bad arc to try and go with, but look, Ghostbusters Afterlife coasted largely on, again, the emotion of Harold Ramis's passing. There's nothing like that here.
Bob Grimm of Reno News and Review. Bill Murray was right. Ghostbusters should have never been sequelized. Yeah, you don't get to say that 5 movies in, you fuckbag.
No, but he's right. Bill Murray was right.
But you say that at 2, not 5. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm just, look, man, if it's not a wrong thing to say in your review.
Fair.
And you should have said was right. Ghostbusters should have never been sequelized. It's sad that it's taken this many movies for them to finally figure it out. That's how you save the quotes.
That's true.
I'll go along with that. Paul Mount of Starburst, presumably a candy. Frozen, which might as well be having reviews on them now. Frozen Empire is a perfectly serviceable slice of bright and breezy, low-intensity horror. First of all, this is far from horror.
There's nothing. There is no horror to be had here. None.
Again, this movie could have benefited from a Ghosts on a Rampage montage.
Yeah. The plot is pretty much a cut-and-paste duplication of the original film. Not even close.
No.
That's Wendy Ide of the Observer UK, top critic, by the way.
Look, if you abstract this to the point of small business and ghost that wants to destroy the world, sure. But at that point, you've abstracted it too far for it to be useful as a plot comparison.
Especially when they use most of the plot beats in Afterlife. Especially the whole thing with Gozer's and Vince. It's like, I'm seriously going, it's like, sweetie, did you watch the right film?
John Flickinger of the Flick Pick YouTube. We've been toiling since July of 2021 on YouTube. And this guy gets to be on there, and we still toil in obscurity. Goddamn, pal.
So hang on, everybody out there watching us, if you would like to see our opinions get clipped and put up on Rotten Tomatoes, go subscribe to the.
If you would like to see a poll from our podcast, like these words mean things, learn what they mean, you assholes, on YouTube, on Rotten Tomatoes.
Then like, comment, and subscribe.
Please.
What an advertisement! If you
We'd
would
like
to see
to
our
start
insults,
getting paid for this, you know.
No, I just want my insults made writ large, at my own, at my insults of my own friends. Like, hey, dum-dums. Look, I said it on Rotten Tomatoes. Moving on.
Hey, no, you were reading. You didn't read his
go
review.
back to the pick. You didn't actually. You got off on your tangent.
Oh, sorry.
Go over it.
Ghostbusters Part 1 concludes with an epic battle against a giant marshmallow kaiju. Part 2 sees the Statue of Liberty spring to life, and now Frozen Empire wraps up anticlimactically in a garage. Felt like a Disney Plus adaptation of classic IP.
Unfortunately, not wrong.
Not wrong. Not wrong at all.
Stephen Prokopi of Third Coast Review. This is a prime example of a film being good enough without coming anywhere near great. Yeah.
Again, that's kind of where most of us landed.
Let's see what Beth had to say.
Hey, Robert Winfree.
Yeah.
It's Ed Whitfield of the Tray, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. It works best when it apes the grounded tone and smart assery of the original, but the writing isn't anywhere near as sharp as the 1984 film. Oh boy, you could say about it.
Never will be. Okay, I'm sorry. You could argue forever against sequels, but the first Ghostbusters movie is lightning in a bottle. It is never going to be recaptured. So if the only thing you can say in your review is it's not as good as the original, then please go sit the fuck down.
Speaking of sit the fuck down, Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies. It's passable entertainment that struggles between nostalgia and adjusting the series canon. Folks, when you've lost the 10-year-old boys and Kevin Carr, you done fucked up.
Series canon. What
It doesn't adjust the series canon. He's just grasping at words.
Yeah, I really didn't get that.
Lisa Johnson Mandel of AtHomeInHollywood.com. While this fifth installment of the Strange in the Neighborhood franchise may not be the strongest, it's still spooktacular fun. Ultimately, Bustin' makes us feel good. Ma'am, I don't wish death on people, but Jesus Christ.
Yes,
that is a
do.
desperate attempt for a Tick Bird review if I ever saw one.
Yes, it is.
Yep. That's why we read these people. Because we must speak truth to power and stupidity.
For those who were new, Tick Bird review means a review that is clearly trying desperately to be quippy enough that they'll get included on the DVD box or poster.
If we're lucky, they'll retweet our review.
Yeah, it's like they're not actually trying to say anything. They're just trying to sound like they know what they're talking about.
Occasionally, all these people do is copy and paste the PR they're sent.
Speaking of copying and pasting PR, Kara McNamara of Common Sense Media. Ghoulish reboot sequel has lots going on. Language scares. We've already figured out that this
that's how keywords work. Now try putting it in an actual sentence.
No. I was just saying we've done this bit before where we had to go see if why does she write in full sentences? Because it's not a review, it's a guide. But a guide gets to be on Rotten Tomatoes, and here we are toiling in obscurity. Ugh.
It's a guide. It's either a guide or it's not in English. Is the other one we get on occasion? Like, wait, what language is this actually written in? I see it.
How many times? Okay, can we actually get a count? How many say busting no longer makes me feel? Because I think we see this at least
the other
times.
Because I see it. Like I see it again. Dan Scully version. Busting no longer makes me feel good.
Seriously, go up to Top Critic Movie Freak.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Fetters with Ghostbusters.
It was right there.
Stop.
Oh. With Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, busting still makes us feel good. Every single one of you, dead fish right in the face.
Yes. I would support this. Drop sturgeon on these people.
Load the salmon cannon.
We are just quoting a song.
Speaking of dead fish, Amy Nicholson of the New York Times, top critic, who has failed upwards from one...
Someone push her out of a window.
Media event is an eclectic, enjoyable barrage of nonsense a circus act that kicks off with a Robert Frost poem and climaxes with Ray Parker Jr.'s. You bored, ma'am? What the fuck was that I just read?
I can't believe somebody actually included in the review the fact that they used a quote from a Robert Frost poem.
They did. That was weird. A weird choice by this entire movie.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I love
guarantee you
Robert
half of the
Frost,
audience who
but
saw the
that's
movie
neither
doesn't know
here
what
nor
Robert.
there.
I guarantee you people thought that was the new villain in the movie, Robert Frost.
You're not wrong.
Abby Bernstein of Assignment X. I once saw Assignment X open up for Metallica in 1989 at the Nassau Coliseum.
You've already made that joke. Move on.
I got mine in, she said. An agreeable franchise entry.
Wow.
I can't tell if this woman is either an idiot or if Rotten Tomatoes just really failed at pulling the right quote.
Wow.
Yeah. Johnny Alexinski, New York Post top critic, former newspaper. This franchise really belongs in the rearview mirror.
Much as I'm loath to agree with the New York Post or the New York Times or anything from the state of New York, he's not wrong.
The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfree, Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is too much fun to skip, and watching these Ghostbusters makes me feel good. Go fuck yourself, ma'am. I'm actually
people
surprised.
are making me hate Ray Parker Jr.
Ooh, nobody hates Ray Parker Jr.
These people are making me hate Ray Parker Jr.
So
by
I have a
extension
problem.
Huey Lewis.
You leave Huey Lewis out of this. He's
Okay,
done
I'm
nothing to you
sorry.
except make
Tell me
wonderful
you
music.
got that reference.
Okay, hang on.
I got it.
I got the reference.
Good. It's like, please tell me you people know that.
So I'm
Yes,
really curious because Tony Lamb.
Really, of all the people who might not have seen American Psycho, Mark would not be at the top of that list.
Well, I was talking about the I need a new drug controversy.
Okay, so Tanya Lamb for the fourth time. I'm surprised she gave this a fresh review and didn't mention, hey, you might not want to take your kids to this, because she's usually like the conservative family advocate chick.
You are no, that's not her. You're misremembering.
I'm not misremembering. Maybe conservative might be too strong a word, but I feel like she's always like looking out for the kids on this one.
I'm pretty sure you're misremembering.
Moving on. See, we'll find one or two more of these and then call on a night as my voice starts to go.
Look at Joanna Langfield's. That is like the most. Scroll back up. Scroll up.
Okay, I got it.
There it is. There it is.
Ugh. Joanna Langfield of the Movie Minute. This Busters made me feel okay. I hope someone hits you with a car.
Preferably the Hulk.
Shit, Robert, that was actually funny.
The future Mrs. Alexis Hejna, Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com. I said what I said.
Ghostbusters fighting you on the shit.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is simply a product of its time, a modern-day sequel chock full of references and nostalgia bait, but with no clear vision as to where it's going or why.
Much as I hate agreeing with Jeremy Johns, he is entirely correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to end with this one because I love to make fun of this guy.
Dan Murrell.
No, not Dan. I could care less about Dan Murrell. Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. An energetic, funny continuation of the franchise, and the first that truly feels like it's found the right groove. Yes, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, made for 8-year-old girls and Travis Hobson.
I'm sure he was one of the ones saying, I really want to watch the miner make out with a ghost.
With his pants off. Sir, you can't take your pants off here. This isn't a Wendy's.
That's implied, Mark. You don't have to say it.
And I say it for the people. Anyway.
The people understand the implication.
I say for the people is the phrase that pays here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. So that's the end of our show. Last night, I've talked way too much about Ghostbusters, and I never want to talk about this franchise again. So last night, me and Ronnie Adams talked for an hour about this franchise, which I'm a little disappointed in us because we had such a good time talking about the cartoon and the conventions and like the chapters of live action Ghostbusters and all of that we forgot to mention the video games. But Sean Comer talked at length about Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters Xbox game, which was basically the script of Ghostbusters 3 that got thrown in the trash can. So if anyone cares, we had that discussion years ago. We just didn't rehash it last night. But Not since the Clerks podcast has Ronnie been that good on a podcast. He was really good last night, and I had a really fun time talking about it. So check out our Whiskey Rebellion. Last night's podcast was so good, we decided to bring back the Whiskey Rebellion. Believe it or not. Check out more episodes coming in the next few months of me and Ronnie just shooting the shit for an hour, and we'll call it the Whiskey Rebellion. And check out our last night show of all things Ghostbusters. This Thursday, I finally watched Roadhouse 89, and I finally watched Roadhouse kinda 24.
Mark, I can't endorse the new Roadhouse. When half of your fist fights between grown men are CGI'd, I'm sorry. I can't do it.
I did a TikTok.
Guys, please don't turn this into another discussion about Roadhouse. I can't take it right now.
I will just say I watched that this afternoon, and I did it on TikTok live. So it's the TikTok verse watching me watch a movie. It got views. I don't know why. But I would tell you,
watching you. There is a market for watching your soul slowly die and you fall asleep from boredom.
Yeah, part of my soul came out. It was playing a harp and everything.
I wonder if that counts as ASMR.
Yes, technically, yes.
I have to say, and I'll talk about this more on Thursday, which is the whole point of me bringing it up. I actually like the fight scenes in the new Roadhouse. I don't care if they're CGI'd.
You buffoon.
Yes, I am an uncultured swine. I'm from.
He is the old man in the mountains, and he doesn't want them painted.
So anyway, yes.
No. Of all the things you might decide on the new Roadhouse are okay, a bunch of tight shots on Jake Gyllenhaal's face as he flops around on the ground on Conor McGregor's back. Conor McGregor once again desperately pretending he's 6 feet tall and not 5'7".
If this is going to continue for another 5 minutes, I will add alcohol to this.
Now
all the steroids. This is the Roadhouse remake. Is just that it's Roadhouse brought to you by steroids.
Wait, why is Conor McGregor's head on Brock Lesnar's body? How did that happen?
It's not on Brock Lesnar's body. It's on Conor McGregor's body after he's on all the steroids.
Let me tell you, Conor McGregor might be the best thing about the new Roadhouse. Anyway,
which is unbearably pathetic.
I know. Speaking of unbearably
watch
pathetic,
the Irishman's coke bender.
Anywho, we will be comparing and contrasting the 89 to 24 Roadhouse this Thursday. It'll be myself, Sean Comer, and Andrew Graham from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So that'll be this Thursday, the On Trial Civil Court Edition Roadhouse. Next week, we've got No Bananas. Monday, April 1st, will be myself and Robert and Jason reviewing Godzilla times Kong, The New Empire. Jason,
Mark,
again.
Monkey, it's a stupid monkey. It's a little stupid monkey. It's a big stupid monkey, and it's a stupid lizard.
Next Tuesday, myself and Jason will be doing
my plot synopsis when we get to that, by the way.
Super. I hope so. We'll be doing a Long Road to Ruin on the Friday trilogy. And then Sean Comer and I continuing our deep dive into cinema. We will be looking at Waking Life, Run Lola Run, and Marriage Story. I suspect at the Marriage Story, I'm going to have to Baker Act myself. So
that's an interesting trio. I think Run Lola Run is probably the legitimate best of that group.
Oh, no question.
I haven't seen Waking Life or Marriage Story. I've just seen the clips of Andrew and Adam Driver screaming at Scarlett Johansson. And I've given my matrimonial history over the last few years, I'm probably going to overly relate to Marriage Story. So we'll see. But it's one I've wanted to watch for a while now. So when Sean and I were like, let's watch all the independent movie ever, that's the three that we came up with.
It is a very depressing movie. Just heads up. Andre and I couldn't get through it.
Super. I'll make sure I'm drinking while I watch it.
It ends with a murder-suicide. It's great.
Awesome. Hey, so will I. So speaking of things that make me want to drink, Alexis, Hejna, show us where you pissed from.
Okay, well, firstly, Mark mentioned this earlier that Robert and I will be back tomorrow night along with Jason Teasley and Dorian Price. Mr. Price, who was unfortunately supposed to join us tonight, had to bow out, I believe, due to technical issues, because he mentioned that he was having trouble loading the screen. So Hey, Dorian, we're sorry you couldn't join us, man. We missed you. But we will be back tomorrow to do another Debut Hollywood discussing Late Night with the Devil, A24's newest horror film. Looking forward to talking about that. As far as
preview, it's, let me see, we have thumbs up, thumbs down. It's, sorry, right about there.
What is that, 45 degree
It's
angle?
less than 45. That's 30. That's about a 30-degree positive.
Ouch. Because I loved it. There's my preview.
Yeah. Look forward to talking about it.
I do too. Along with a discussion between the four of us about the use of AI in cinema, both how things turned out after the double strike that plagued us last year, to OpenAI's current ambition to convince studios to start using them, and of actually Late Night with the Devil's use of AI in a couple of their shots. So looking forward to a
subtitled. We yell at the idiots on film Twitter for being idiots.
Can't argue with that. As far as my other show, TV Party Tonight, it's going to be a little bit before we have anything to talk about, just because all the shows that we want to talk about are currently running. We're going to be discussing X-Men 97 as soon as that wraps up. We're going to be starting the discussion for Fallout, which I am actually not helming. That's going to go to another staff member who knows the games inside and out, so he's probably a little bit better expert than I am to talk about it. Still looking forward to that. Of course, we've got House of the Dragon and a couple of other shows coming out here pretty soon. Really enjoying that. I'm actually currently debating if I want to add Shogun to our schedule of TV Party Tonight.
Oh, if you do, I'll watch it, but you should also reach out to Andrew.
If you do, I'm down to review it. It's very good.
Well, David actually was the one who brought it up because he actually has an East Asian studies degree.
Okay, so here's the thing, Alexis, I'm going to leave you in charge of that. I am willing to be on it unless you have 3 other people, in which case I will bow out. But I'm down to talk Shogun. Let
me talk with the 2 in our Canadian outpost who hopefully haven't froze to death this week. Nasty cold front's been moving through. It's ugly.
Hey, Robert, the Thunder won, by the way. And the Lakers in fucking overtime. And I'm sad I missed out on that action. Because like a $40 bet paid like almost $500, which was the talk of my office today. And I was just like, there's no way I'm putting money on the Lakers. And they fucking won in overtime. But also the Thunder won. So there.
Okay.
All right. Well, either way, as soon as we get some more... The problem is that we get a lot of premiere dates, but we don't actually have the episode release dates, and I can't put them on the schedule till I know when the final episode is, so I can't tell you when we're reviewing when, because I don't know.
So back when I was doing 4 to 5 shows a week, can you imagine what my life was like? As I'm like, like refreshing pages, like, come on, give me the date so I can plan my calendar for the next 5 years.
Tell me about it.
I used to have long hair.
No.
Did previously...
No. What happened is Mark's beard did not used to be gray. It used to be a lustrous chestnut.
Okay, as far as TV Party Tonight, though, if you want to check our recent videos, we did discuss the Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender series. Yes, you
10-year-old get drunk with power.
Yeah, thank you. You just took the joke right out of my mouth. If you want to
Jonas was so smart and insightful on the show. I was so proud of him. He really was the best part of the entire thing.
He brought a lot, and I'm really glad we had him on. He did a really good job. He had so much to say about the series. For the record, though, okay. So those who don't know, Mark puts little segments of each show on TikTok. So the little highlights, if you will. And he does automatic subtitles, like closed captioning. If you go watch the Avatar: The Last Airbender one, the closed captioning is hilarious because it's trying to figure out how to spell names like Sokka and Toph and Aang, and if you just read it, we're talking about soccer. And it's just hilarious how it's not like soccer, and I'm looking, I'm going, what the heck? And it took me a second to realize what was going on.
We know what's funny
considering what they did to that character, he now does resemble a game of soccer.
The funny thing about TikTok is you can actually edit the things. I'm just lazy and won't do it. So like whatever mismatch it comes up with, I don't give a fuck.
We know.
I figured. But yeah, so go Mark's TikTok is right there if you want to go check out the hilarious clip. Also, the meaningful one where we discuss the idea of casting a actress on the blind spectrum to play Toph in season 2. And now, as far as the,
don't know if the insurance will go with that, but okay.
That's why I said blind spectrum. That's why we talked about that. Trust me, that came up in the discussion. Believe me.
I once saw a blind spectrum open up for Metallica in 1989 at the Nassau Coliseum.
Made that joke on this podcast.
Less than 10 minutes ago.
Okie dokie.
And the Nassau Coliseum's a dump. You should never have been there to begin with.
Oh my God, your mother's a dump. Go ahead, Alexis.
Hey, she's watching the show. Be nice to my mother.
Your mom fucking scolded me. I gently chide you about your MMA picks costing me a fortune, and your mom's like, "He told you not to bet on MMA, you heathen bastard." I'm like, Jesus Christ, lady.
For the record, she's joking with you, not scolding you.
Joking, scolding, I don't know the difference anymore.
Where do you think I got my sense of humor?
Go ahead.
You have a sense of humor?
Of course I do.
Oh my God. This is why our plugs take 20 minutes.
You guys are the assholes who kept interrupting me.
Speaking of interrupting, go ahead.
Moo.
As far as the bills that are the plugs that do pay my bills, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Just wrapped up Planet Comic-Con, had a blast. That was record attendance. Thank you very much, Matthew Lillard and Keith David, for bringing out the fans. And it was a record high for sales. We had so much fun. Next show will be LPL Con in April. That's in Lawrence, Kansas. Small show. That was our first year last year. So looking forward to going back. In the meantime, we're adding some more stock to the shops. Our Handmade at Amazon shop is about to get a brand new collection of Monopoly and Clue bracelets, and both shops will be getting our new Fallout Nuka-Cola charm bracelet.
Ooh.
Had a lot of fun designing that one and trying to figure out what was it? Nuka-Cola Victory's bottle cap would look like. So, of course,
like Victory.
What is that?
Sorry.
Like the dude in the red, white, and blue American pancakes at IHOP who just said, "I wonder what those taste like." America.
A little bit, yeah. I've played enough Fallout games to know that that's what the actual tagline would be if you were to. I assume your quantum ones glow purple.
Well, technically it's neon blue, so I'm sure it glows purple under a black light. Kind of hard to add neon glow ink from a Canon printer.
Move this on.
Okay, so again, shops are on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Fuck you, Elon Musk. I will never call it X, and TikTok. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Break it down. Sorry, the different kind of X.
That was the whitest thing you've ever done, Mark.
It's up there. It really is.
All right, speaking of break it down, Robert.
All right, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. So WWE stuff on Friday, UFC events on Saturday. When we get stuff for MLW, I review that, but haven't heard from them in a bit, so I actually need to ask one of my editors about that, but that's a whole other thing. So with WrestleMania season, WrestleMania is about to be upon us, actually. I believe this next week. So last couple of SmackDowns before that, I have not yet scheduled to cover one of the nights of WrestleMania. In fact, there's a UFC event running the same night as WrestleMania Night 1, so curious to see how that's going to wind up going. But
incidentally, I'm probably going to do a traditional live stream, not a TikTok live. I'm going to do it through StreamYard, projecting outward like I do all my other podcasts, and just sort of invite all my friends to come on if they want to. But I think I'm going to Joey Styles that shit and just do a solo live stream for night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. Unless a pretty lady wants to come watch it with me.
Wait, sorry, it's not 6th, April 6th, so 2 weeks still before that. But yeah.
Yep.
So I'm not currently scheduled to cover either of those nights, but that might change. We'll see. I'm usually accommodating of.
Well, if not, you can come sit on my lap and watch WrestleMania with me.
I'm not sure which part of that sounds worse. Watching professional wrestling I'm not being paid to watch, or sitting on your lap.
I guess you're going to find out, baby. Keep going. Hey, there she did the thing.
Ugh, sorry, I just got serious vibes from that episode. That episode of Too Old to Die Young, where they open with on the porn set.
Yeah. Okay, boys.
The only good scene in that entire godforsaken 12 hours.
That is, I have like my top 5 podcasts, and that is like top 3 right there.
It really is. It was a great show.
That and The Boys season 3 is why when Alexis asked to be on The Boys season 4, I said you have to watch our Boys season 3 coverage first before I'll let you on the show. By the way, I'm holding you to that.
Yeah, you can find
You
can find me over there again pretty much every week. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I record that late Sunday evening, so it goes live Monday. This last week was a review of UFC on ESPN 53, which was meta poor.
And I lost money on that fight because of you.
You lost money on that?
No, it's not your fault. It's my stupid addictions.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I am keeping track of my prediction record this year because I always predict every fight on every card.
And the last 2 cards have just shot your entire record full of buckshot.
My record is 83 and 30 something at the moment. So I actually have a very good overall.
Sure, but the last 2 cards just sucked.
Okay, hang on. 2 cards ago, I actually went negative for the first time all year. Last card, I was positive. I was 7 and 6. Again, positive.
I need
That's
you 13
all I
and
care
0.
about.
I have bills to pay. I need you to be 13 and 0. Okay, make better picks.
That's never going to happen. Best I've done is 12 and 2.
Give me money.
Best.
Right, keep going.
Staying out of this. Like I said, I don't gamble.
So if you want to listen to me make predictions and keep track of them, again, I reviewed UFC on ESPN 53 and I previewed UFC on ESPN 54. That event's in New Jersey, so they had to sell tickets, so they had to actually try instead of throwing them in the UFC warehouse. So there's that. I'll be covering that on Saturday, so tune in for that if you're so inclined. And yeah, tomorrow night, another edition of Damn You Hollywood. We will be talking Late Night with the Devil and, the mostly positives. I'm mostly positive on that.
I've been throwing up old episodes of the 401 Ground and Pound radio show from back in 2011 when it was Kachowski, Samer, and me, and then eventually Jeff. And let me tell you, if anyone's listening to this podcast going, well, doesn't he ever let his friends talk? Go back and listen to those shows. That's why. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. For Robert Winfree, for Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, by Her Jewelry. I'm the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.